We're not seeing the sacks we were seeing before. I keep hearing, where's Nick Bosa? I am still not at that point where I'm worrying about the defense or even where I would say, the offense is carrying the defense. That's a little much. We're not there. And I do want to answer Gammon's question here. Shout out Gammon. Thanks for the donation. He said Cowboys are playing their best season football. 49ers haven't even peaked yet. How is Drake Jackson looking? We need more cowbell and pressure. Look, I agree that the sacks, yes, I would like more of those. But at the same time, like the 49ers are getting pressure. Like they are. It just hasn't really turned into sacks quite yet. And I think part of it is like teams are playing this defense a little bit differently so far
Yep.
through these first 4 games of the season. They're getting the ball out a lot quicker. Last week, Dobbs, he was getting the ball out 2.68 seconds. That was second fastest release time that week. Daniel Jones, 2.63. Stafford in week 2, 2.57. Kenny Pickett was probably like the slowest release time they faced all year. That was 2.89. But you get my point. Like, I think there's a concerted effort for teams to get the ball out quicker. And at all times, they know where Nick Bosa is at. He's being double teamed the most out of like any defensive lineman out there. And yet, like, we did see some plays where Bosa was so close to getting the Dobbs, and credit the Dobbs for getting the ball out quick. But even then, it did force incompletion. So it's not always going to lead to a sack where you get, the loss of yards and all that. We would all love to see that. But sometimes it leads to other things too. And so that can't be discounted.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, he's there. He's applying the pressure. 20 pressures on the season as of right now, and he's leading the team in pressures. So with double teams, he's leading the team with pressures. Like the pressures are there. Steph, you hit the nail on the head. Like these teams are coming out and they're getting rid of the ball quickly. And that's the game plan against the 49ers defense because they know 3 or more seconds, they're coming after you. So if you can get the ball out of your hand in less than 3 seconds, you get that quick release, good. Now the difference between these quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford, experienced veteran, he was highly accurate on his quick releases, whereas Josh Dobbs and Daniel Jones weren't. And so like that's the difference. And now we're going to be playing a Dak Prescott who I just don't think is an efficient quick release thrower either. So if as long as we can continue to get him to get the ball out of his hands, you know what pressure does to Dak Prescott.
Yeah, it gets bad. It gets meme worthy and gif worthy real quick when that dude's back there throwing. But I'll say this: everybody keeps talking about the lack of pressures and sacks. That is not the main concern for this 49ers defense. The main concern is stopping the run game, and they're doing that in spades. The fewest rush attempts in the NFL, third fewest yards rushing in the NFL. That's what they want to win in. Then you force the third and longs. And yeah, like Steph said, every single team that comes in has the game plan. Get the ball out of your hand quick, or Nick Bosa will kill you. Let them do that. It's not working. So I understand there are certain metrics that we want, and we got used to Defensive Player of the Year. We've only had 3 in our entire franchise history, by the way. So it's not like last year is a constant and going to continually happen. That's not the goal. Yeah, Nick Bosa, I want him to break the sack record, and eventually maybe that will happen. That's not going to happen this year. Not going to happen. And that's okay because guess what? You're now playing more complementary football. And if you're going to beat the 49ers, you're going to have to run the ball. And if nobody's going to try to run the ball on us, then guess what? The Niners are going to win a ridiculous amount of games. And that is what we should be focusing on because Steve Wilks and this 49ers defense, their number one goal, stop the rushing game. And they're doing it. So I get the sacks. I want more. I get it. But stop the run game first, and they're doing that.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, I mean, and to go along with what I was saying earlier, the teams are playing this defense just a little bit differently. They're now like not even really attempting to run the ball against this defense. Instead, they're throwing the ball most in the NFL against the 49ers and the least amount against the 49ers. So that to me tells you that defense or offenses are adjusting to what the 49ers have historically been doing. They've now been doing this for a few years now. So teams know what to expect when they're facing the 49ers. But look, this defense is still good. They're limiting teams so far to 14.5 points per game. big test coming this week because to this point, the 49ers haven't faced a top 10 offense.
Can
All
you put
right.
that up there one more time? I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That was an awesome graphic. I'm curious where Dallas
And my
is.
my arrow is actually in the wrong spot for the bottom row. That should be to the right. 49ers, as I said, they're being passed against the most. So that's why we're seeing,
180 pass plays against our defense.
You're not going to beat us that way. That's why we got 5 picks. I mean,
and that's what I'm saying. The Niners want to force you to throw the ball. They're really aiding and bedding you to throw the ball down the field. That's where we feast. So they'll give up the underneath throws, be there, make the tackle, make sure you get hit. A couple of situations happened that I didn't really like as far as the personnel that was out on the football field against the Arizona Cardinals when we were like in our base. Cardinals found a way to take advantage of that, but I think we fixed that up. I don't think you'll see the base out there. You won't see Fred Warner.
You're talking about Ambry Thomas when Ambry Thomas was out there?
No, I'm talking about when Fred Warner was covering Malcolm Brown in that zone.
Field, yeah.
And then I'm talking about with Dre Greenlaw covering Michael Wilson. Like you won't see linebackers covering wide receivers typically in a 49ers defense, but like to me those were some big explosive plays that we allowed. But look, Steve Wilkes is going to limit the explosive plays by giving up the underneath, and that's what he's been doing. And guess what? We're 4-0 doing it. So we'll figure it'll figure itself out. I just didn't know that they've thrown 180 times. Yeah. Please run the ball. Please.
You make anybody one-dimensional. It like you look at the Shanahan. Thank you for that graphic. That was incredible. I haven't seen that, Steph. You are incredible all the time. I would say this: Shanahan's goal is to run the ball until you stop him. Like exactly. Shanahan, like look at the Green Bay NFC Championship game. Like we'll Raheem Mostert the heck out of you, and if you want to stop that, then we'll start to throw the ball. And the 49ers have been really balanced offensively, but we're trying to do what nobody else wants to do. If you force somebody into just throwing the damn ball against you, eventually stuff's going to go wrong with a sack or an interception. And so you cannot consistently beat the 49ers unless you run the ball. And if teams are already conceding the fact that they can't run the ball before they even step on the field, that's a trip, man. But Niners going to win a lot of games if that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think we're just going to see Wilkes get more comfortable, calling plays for this defense, because I think we've seen him like experiment with some things. And like Wayne, you mentioned some of those things where we're seeing, linebackers in coverage quite a bit. They adjusted. And also Ambry Thomas, I want that experiment to end. I know he's a Michigan guy. Wayne, you're probably a fan of him, but I just don't think he's it. And so I hope that these little experiments, when Wilkes figures out what works and what doesn't, then this defense could really hit the ground running and they're not going to look back.
The 49ers Rush Podcast.